Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and for those of you that are new, my name is Marissa, also known as Homemaking with Marissa. Today's video is going to be 15 things you should be saving for in the year 2021. If this is the first video you're ever watching of mine, I do have an entire playlist that I will link in the description box, all related to personal finance. Things like how to create a budget, whether or not we should be investing currently, and how to get yourself out of debt. All of those videos, as well as the entire financial playlist, will be linked in the description box down below. And if you're new to my channel and haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button, as well as turning on bell notifications so that you don't miss when I upload. The first area I want to talk about that everyone should be saving for in the year 2021 is medical expenses. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that you never know when a medical event could arise. I was once told it is not a matter of if a medical event will happen in your life, it's just when. We don't often know when something is going to arise, and we are going to incur hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of expense associated with medical payments. If you have the option to set up something like an FSA, an HSA, or even just a savings account to cover your deductible or any co-pays that you will incur after a medical event, it will alleviate the stress. The second area that I recommend people save for is taxes. I live in the state of Oregon, which not only has federal income taxes, but we also have state income tax. We have to file our taxes annually for not only federal taxes, but also state taxes. And having a huge tax bill at the end of the year can really be a huge burden. If this is something that you have historically incurred, having money set aside for taxes will prevent you from having to deal with a huge expense all at once. I also have to pay all of my own property taxes. I do not have any sort of escrow account to cover this. And in my area, my county does not tell us what we owe in property taxes until 2 weeks before the bill is due in full. If we were not planning for this, we would have a bill for thousands and thousands of dollars all come due at once, where we have a general idea of what's due, but we don't know the exact amount, like I said, until 2 weeks before. Taxes is something that I do not want to deal with not being able to pay, so I have a savings account set up where I put money in on a monthly basis for taxes. The third area we should be saving for is Christmas. I am filming this video at the end of December, and now is the perfect time to start planning for Christmas 2021. Oftentimes there is a lot of stress associated with the holidays, and I find that it can be a huge financial burden for a ton of people. When I was in my 20s, I really dreaded Christmas, and I realized that it was not the Christmas season that I dreaded, it was the expense associated. It was the cost of giving gifts, it was the cost of the extra food, it was the cost of the packaging and the cost to mail out Christmas cards. All of those things really add up. Travel expenses, things associated with the holiday can really add up. Christmas is not a surprise. It's the same day every single year. And if we start planning now, you can really take that time to just enjoy the holiday season and not be fretting about how to pay for it. The fourth item you should be saving for is retirement. The best time to start saving for retirement is today. If it doesn't matter how young or old you are, we should be taking into consideration the fact that at some point we want to retire. I have worked in the personal finance industry for my entire adult life and find that a lot of times people are really shocked with how little money they're receiving from Social Security. And if they've only been putting in the minimum of 2 or 3% into their 401k or their IRAs, they find that it is difficult for them to maintain the same lifestyle when they go to retire. Oftentimes, I think people envision not only living a comparable lifestyle to what they have now, but oftentimes living a better lifestyle in retirement. If this is your goal, it's important to sit down with a financial advisor and figure out how much money you need to be setting aside monthly to cover your retirement. The next area is an emergency savings account. Emergencies, they're going to be just like medical expenses. It is not a matter of if it will occur, it's when. And having a account set up just for things like a job loss or a large unexpected expense can really take the financial burden off of you when that emergency arises. Number 6 is birthdays or events. 2020 was the year of canceled events. I have several weddings that have been postponed that we were invited to in 2020, or other events that were scheduled in 2020 that unfortunately have had to be pushed out. What this means is I anticipate that when this pandemic passes and life begins to resume to normal, not only are we going to have the events and the birthdays scheduled in 2021, but a lot of the events that would have occurred in 2020 are going to be pushed to 2021, which means that if we want to attend all of these different events, it's a good idea to start setting money aside for gifts and or travel expenses. The next area is travel. For my family, we had multiple vacations that were scheduled in the year 2020 that had to be bumped out. We do have airline credits, we have tickets to Disneyland, all that are going to be expiring in the year 2021. And I would love to be able to take my family on a nice vacation when all of this is said and done. There is going to be costs associated with that though, so we are setting money aside in anticipation that we would really like to go on a vacation in the year 2021. Number 8 is a home purchase or home improvements. If you are renting currently and would like to buy a home at some point, having money set aside for a down payment and being able to do a conventional loan instead of an FHA loan will save you money in the long run. I purchased my first home in 2012 and we had enough money saved up to be able to do a conventional loan instead of an FHA loan, which saved us quite a bit overall in the cost of the loan as well as fees. If you would like me to make an entire separate video on why my husband and I picked a conventional loan over an FHA loan, let me know in the comments down below, and that would be something I would be happy to make in the future. Now, if you are like me and you already own a home, home improvements is something that it's not if, it's when. And recently my husband and I had a dishwasher that started leaking all over the floor. We had the money set aside to be able to replace our dishwasher. Now, a lot of times if people don't have the money set aside for home improvement projects, they will either go into debt or they will just ignore the problem, which oftentimes will end up not only making the problem worse, but more often than not, it will end up costing you more money. If I had just ignored the dishwasher, it would have ruined my flooring, it would have ruined my cabinetry, and if we hadn't had the money set aside, we would have either incurred additional expenses later or would have had to go into debt to buy a new dishwasher. Number 9 is your kids' education. College loan debt is one of those things that can really weigh people down, not only for years, but sometimes decades after they graduate from college. I have 3 children ranging in age from 3 to 16 years old. With my 16-year-old, I really wish that I had been aware of the power of compound interest and the value of starting to save when he was little. I will not have enough money set aside by the time my 16-year-old graduates high school to pay for all of his education, but I would really like to be able to help him. For the last 5 years, my husband and I have been setting aside money on a monthly basis for each child to be able to go to college. Like I've said, we will not be able to pay for all of their education, but we would really like to be able to take some of the burden off of them when they go to college. We also discuss with our children the importance of picking a college wisely and the expense of some schools versus other schools. I have told my 16-year-old that I will not support him paying double the amount of money to cross state lines to go to college. And we in Oregon have 2 very good state schools with a variety of different majors that he would be able to take. There's very few things that he could not graduate from in the state of Oregon. And we will encourage him to stay in the state of Oregon when going to school to save himself significant amounts of money and make the money that we have saved for him go further. Next is school clothes. My children have not been to school in a brick and mortar school since March of 2020. There is very little reason for us to believe that they will be going back to school prior to the beginning of next school year, which would be in September in my area. I did not do a major back to school shop for my children in 2020, knowing that they weren't physically going to be in school. They've been spending a lot more time outside and have been pretty hard on their clothes. I am expecting that when they go back to school in 2021, we will have to do a complete closet refresh for them. Now, this can really add up when you've got 3 children. So if you, like me, did not do a back to school shop for your kids' clothing in 2020, I would start setting money aside for back to school clothes in 2021. The next area that I am saving for is family activities. We have not been able to do much as a family outside of the house in the year 2020. This will likely continue into 2021, but when things open back up in my area, I would like to be able to do something that is really fun and outside of the ordinary for my family. I have thought maybe we would buy theater tickets and have a membership to a local theater group that we could go to on a quarterly, monthly basis, however often the shows occur. Maybe we would do some sort of sports membership, something that we could do as a family that is outside of the ordinary, maybe something we wouldn't have thought of doing prior to this year, but a way that we have an activity that we are looking forward to attending in 2021. Number 12 is either your next car or car repairs. I have talked in my channel about having debt when my husband and I first got married. When I got married, we both had a car payment, and it was amazing how much that really weighed us down to have so much of our money going out in car payments every single month. Getting rid of car payments is, in my opinion, why we are able to save so much money for so many different areas. If there is one debt in your life that you can eliminate, car payments is something that, for me personally, made such a huge difference in the way that I am able to live my life. Now, I am like everybody else. I would love to have a bright, shiny new SUV. What I do not want is the payments for a bright, shiny new SUV. I am unwilling to finance $8,000-$9,000 a month in car payments so that I can drive a new shiny car. Because I drive an older vehicle, there are repairs that come up that are associated with having an older car. Having money set aside for car repairs, it's like a house. If you ignore the problems, typically they get worse and typically they get more expensive. In addition to having money set aside for car repairs, we have money that we are planning to save for our next car. My husband and I are not in the need, we're not anticipating needing to replace our cars for at least the next 5 years. So what we are starting to do is be mindful of the fact that if we want to avoid car payments, we need to start saving for our next car. Now, we don't set aside a set amount every month for a new car, but we are starting to think about what it would cost for a new car and how much money that means that we need to be setting aside to be prepared to pay cash for our next vehicle. Number 13 is a new phone. I have the iPhone XS Max. I do not have the latest iPhone. I don't think that I need the latest iPhone. However, I am aware that eventually my phone will become obsolete and I will have to upgrade it. It makes me cringe when I hear that people are leasing cell phones. I refuse to pay $20, $30, $40 a month for the privilege of borrowing a phone from my cell phone company. I am not going to rent my cell phone. When I have the money saved up and can pay cash for a new phone, I will buy a new phone. But I am not going to have this ongoing recurring expense every single month for the privilege of borrowing the newest phone. If you are currently leasing or making phone payments, I would encourage you to pay it off and then either be content with the phone that you have already paid for and also to save up for your next phone. there is really a lot of freedom in only having to pay the cost of using the internet, making calls, and texting. Number 14 is car registration. I live in Oregon. Car registration is not something that is an overwhelming expense here. It's definitely something that can just be incorporated into our regular monthly budget when that expense arises. However, in certain areas, car registration is thousands of dollars. It's very expensive, and it's a huge expense all at once. If you live in an area that has expensive car registration, I would just incorporate that into your monthly savings and start planning ahead so that it doesn't come and hit you all at once. Number 15 is a side hustle. I started my YouTube channel about 10 months ago. This channel is definitely in the category of hobby. I do make some money off of YouTube, but at this point I'm more in the stage of putting money into my channel to hopefully be able to transition it in the future into a side hustle. Now, YouTube videos is not for everybody. Not everybody's gonna wanna start their own YouTube channel, but if you have some way of creating some sort of side hustle, setting money aside to be able to get that off the ground will pay for itself tenfold in the future. If you have the ability to sell something in an Etsy shop or have some sort of hobby that could be transformed into a business, I think that the year 2020 taught us that having a side hustle can be really beneficial for people financially. It can also be a funnel of fueling all of these other accounts that you're trying to save for. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, you can do so by clicking on my face here. I will have my entire playlist full of financial videos here, as well as an additional video for you here. I hope you're all staying happy and healthy. Bye!